Greetings friends and welcome to my channel. So I said some time ago that I would do a Wrestlemania 33 kind of match card analysis thing. Don't want to do predictions one, I'm going to do that close to the time. At the moment, I just kind of want to go through the card, and there was one that was leaked some time ago, and I kind of want to go through the difference between the leaked card and the actual current card. Because as has been said, Vince likes to change things last minute. With it being the leaked card, we can't guarantee how accurate it actually was, but some of it seems like it would have been a great idea, some of it seems like it may be just people speculating, but let's go through it anyway. Okay, so we start off with the pre-show, with the kickoff matches. So there was 3 scheduled, the first one being American Alpha versus the Usos versus the Ascension for the SmackDown Live Tag Team Championships. Now, the Ascension are nowhere to be seen during this feud unless they get thrown in randomly. It looks like that's not going ahead, but American Alpha versus the Usos have got this rivalry, this feud that's really starting to build up. So it looks like American Alpha versus the Usos will happen, but that match hasn't been confirmed yet. I would imagine it should be confirmed either tomorrow or on the next episode of the episode of SmackDown Live after that, as the next one will be the last one before Mania. So yeah, nothing on that at the moment, so that's still a possibility, but pre-show, which is unfortunate. Next one we have is Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson versus Sheamus and Cesaro versus Enzo and Cass. Now, as we know, this actually has been confirmed and will be a triple threat tag team match for the WWE Raw Tag Team Championships. Again, according to the previous card, it was potentially supposed to be on the kickoff show. This could still happen. The only other one alongside that is the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royale, which has got some competitors confirmed. This is The Big Show, Titus O'Neil, Mojo Rawley, Apollo Crews, Kurt Hawkins, and Dolph Ziggler. So we have got a few there. Not many though at the moment. But I would imagine with Finn Balor returning, and if they don't end up having him in a match against against Triple H, then, and the Seth Rollins one goes ahead, then it's a potential for Finn to at least be injected into that match. If he is, you never know, he could be the guy Big Show puts over, or Big Show could end up winning it, as we know it is his last Mania. And his big match, his gimmick match, was completely called off. So yeah, those are the 3 main matches on the potential kickoff show. 2 of them already confirmed, 1 yet to be confirmed. Again, my issue with this is the titles should not be on the pre-show. The pre-show is meant that one way you can watch it. If you miss it, you do miss some good matches, and that's a bit upsetting. But at the end of the day, you don't have to watch that without watching the main show and knowing the main storylines that are happening. And tag team championships in general should not be on the pre-show. The titles are supposed to be in the spotlight. They're supposed to matter. Therefore, it's better for them to be on the main show that everybody is is more likely to watch. Okay, so on the main show, we have a ladder match that was on the initial card that was released that said Neville versus TJ Perkins versus Brian Kendrick versus Akira Tozawa versus Jack Gallagher versus Cedric Alexander versus Tony Nese in a ladder match for the Cruiserweight Championship. Now, as we know, it's normally an Intercontinental Championship match, but with it now being more likely to be Ambrose and Corbin for the No Holds Barred in a match, then that kind of goes out the window, because that's unlikely to be the match that they're going to put those two in. It's going to be more of a hardcore kind of match for those two, because obviously they're quite brutal, quite in your face kind of wrestlers. So it doesn't make sense for, even though they could put on quite a good ladder match, for them to have a ladder match. But for it to be the cruiserweights would be so good. It would really give them a chance to showcase their high flying skills and to just show off the cruiserweight division. You know, there are a few more who would potentially be added to that, and a couple taken out. Because obviously Neville is now scheduled to be in a match against Austin Aries for the championship. So you could create a kickoff match instead of one of the tag team championships, and put the cruiserweights on there and have them just compete maybe for a #1 contendership or something like that. That'd be really, really awesome. And we'd get to really showcase the cruiserweights and what they can do. Unfortunately, it is unlikely that Cedric Alexander would be a part of that, as some of us know he is off currently with an injury. We could, however, have others that we could put in there. So Rich Swann in there, and maybe Mustafa Ali, and basically cruiserweights who aren't being used. I would imagine a few of them will end up turning up in the Battle Royale, but yeah, it'd be a great way to really show what the cruiserweights can do. So maybe they'll put that in. Maybe it's something they'll announce on 205 Live. We'll have to see what they do with that. Next is on the previous card announced was Alexa Bliss versus Mickie James versus Becky Lynch. Now, this is kind of what's happening. It's going to be a few more. Obviously, we've got Naomi in there as well, and basically all of Natalya and every available woman from the SmackDown Live Women's Championship. The reason it being stated as available is the fact that Naomi obviously dropped the title because she got a knee injury similar to what Rowan's got. So it's had a torn ACL, torn MCL. So it looks like, and her father has tweeted recently on Twitter saying that in response to a fan, she will be back by WrestleMania. So it's in her hometown. Now, granted, that doesn't necessarily have good bearings, considering that most of the time, if you're in your hometown, as we know, WWE likes to be quite cruel and make their wrestlers lose, or make those wrestlers lose. But it looked like they were going to have Naomi come in as the homecoming champion, so they might actually let her keep this, win the title instead, because of the fact that she lost it and she had to relinquish it the way that she did. So let's hope that they actually do something good with that and give her a proper babyface kind of pop. We did see Asuka at a SmackDown Live event not that long ago, so it is possible that she will be included in that match, in that women's match for the SmackDown Live Championship. Okay, so as I said, we've got Dean Ambrose versus Baron Corbin for the Intercontinental Championship, no holds barred. This has been teased after as a dark match for SmackDown Live, and they kept him off TV because of the fact they were trying to sell the whole injury angle for Ambrose. Granted, it doesn't really make much difference. Social media kind of goes, hey, look what we just saw after the main event. So you can't really get away with that. But, especially in this day and age. But, yeah, so this is probably going to happen, this match. It's not really questioned. The no holds barred stipulation, what they will do with that, more than likely so with the teasing of the metal pole and the forklift. You never know, we might actually get to see Ambrose use Barbie properly after he had it passed over to him from him to Mick Foley. just before the Lesnar match, and maybe the inclusion of the chainsaw that Terry Funk passed to him as well. Depends on if they want to go back and kind of reminisce about that, be a bit nostalgic about that. But they may definitely do the Barbie thing, which would be pretty cool, especially when I saw him making out with her last time. So we might actually get to see Barbie be used. So that will be pretty cool. Those two will put on a pretty damn good match, and it'll finally put them both in the spotlight a bit more. Dean's he's one of the second faces, but he doesn't really tend to get much not screen time, but he doesn't really tend to get more in the main events as he probably should do. He don't really tend to have a lot of story for him. So this will be a nice feud for the pair of them, and Baron Corbin as well. During the last thing he did was the Kalisto thing. So it gives them some substance. It gives them a bit more action. We also had, obviously, Big Show versus Shaq. Shaquille O'Neal announced. Now, this was on the previous card, and as we know, this has been cancelled. Big Show has obviously gotten into the greatest shape of his life, but we got a picture on Instagram of Shaq training, and the next thing we heard, he was going through a drive-through. So people were like, is he really taking this seriously? But it turns out that he was still in negotiations with WWE for it, and now it is no longer happening. Financially, it fell through. So it's unfortunately no longer happening, and Big Show will be in the Andre the Giant's Memorial Battle Royale. Next on the previous leaked card, we had Samoa Joe versus Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns for the USA Championship. Now, this would have been quite a cool match. Even if they bothered to just kind of do it anyway for a number one contendership. As we know, this has been changed. Maybe they'll do Joe versus Sami Zayn, but it's very, very unlikely. Joe will probably and Sami will probably end up being inserted into the Battle Royale instead, which is unfortunate considering those two. Joe's only just come up to the main card, and Sami is, he works hard. Give Sami a chance, because obviously this so-called push didn't happen, and he hasn't really had much to do lately, and that's somewhat upsetting. But yeah, so obviously Reigns no longer has the US Championship, and that match has completely changed. But Reigns will obviously end up being in the match with the Undertaker, which has been confirmed. This is a scary, scary match. There are talks, obviously, about the whole thing about him saying that he would retire the Undertaker is concerning. We don't really want him to be the one who retires the Undertaker. As much as I understand why, and I get them trying to push him as the big face of the company now that Cena's gone. Just a mini rant about that, actually. You don't need a main face of the company, considering what WWE is and the fact that it is such a character-based company. It's things like ensemble casts have become huge recently. Shows like The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones and so many others. People don't, and Arrow and Flash, and even though they have main characters, we don't really tend to focus on the main characters. It tends to get focused on as an ensemble group, and people are almost preferring that. So, being able to choose who your face is, having multiple kind of faces throughout the company, and you do have that with WWE. But they keep trying to push one person as the main face, and it gets incredibly, incredibly irritating. And more fans are fighting back at things like that. Look at half of the memes that you get for Rick and from The Walking Dead, and some of the Jon Snow ones for Game of Thrones. Yes, they still have their main faces, but everybody has a favourite, and I don't think you need to force somebody down their throat. You can still make them a main focus without making them the only focus. So, back to what I was saying. I can see what they're trying to do with Taker versus Reigns. Hopefully, it won't be the one to retire The Undertaker, with WrestleMania 34 being at New Orleans next year, which is the site where the streak ended. It would be nice to see him retire there instead if he's going to, because obviously he has spoken about needing hip surgery lately, and granted he is in a lot of pain, and he said he wants to do it once his career has ended. So he may end it to Roman Reigns and bow out like that to make Lesnar look stronger, because apparently the story for Lesnar, and has been for some time now, some years, has been to make him look strong, to make and look like the ultimate monster, to be the one who is brought down by Roman Reigns. So, which is why there's also been talk of Reigns going to SmackDown to create separation, to bring the storyline together a little bit further on down the road. Which might explain why AJ may be going over to Raw, but that's another story for another time. All of this may explain why Undertaker lost in the best 2 out of 3 to Brock Lesnar. Was kind of built up, and then he didn't get knocked down, but Lesnar got made to look even more of a beast. He got made to look even stronger. So, even more dominant as a force than he was before. He took down the dead man, he took down this great of wrestling and WrestleMania. He conquered the streak. So, and then maybe if Reigns was to defeat Taker, then that makes Reigns look like he's on par with Lesnar. Lesnar versus Reigns, boom, bada bing. Reigns wins, retires Undertaker. Storyline wise, it makes sense, but I again like the streak ending to Lesnar. I don't think it would be a fair set of circumstances, and it would necessarily be the right person for that streak to end to. For it to maybe end to Cena because of how much, to kind of make him go out on a high, considering he's going to probably disappear after WrestleMania for at least some time, or maybe longer. It would make sense. It would be more justifiable for it to be Cena. Also got Seth Rollins versus Triple H. Now this might happen, this might not. Seth Rollins is not officially fully cleared, as we yet know, to wrestle a full match. He's definitely cleared to do basic stuff, which is why he took the bumps that he did on Raw with the crutch angle on Raw with Triple H. But as for being cleared for a full match, it's still kind of up in the air, which is why, again, Balor hasn't really done much lately. He's still kind of being used as a backup. They may develop something for him in the next couple of weeks if Rollins, I would imagine, is showing more progress, but as of right now, it still is being followed up by the company, so it's more likely to still be Seth Rollins versus Triple H. If they decide to continue with this angle as well, what they may do is they may do Finn Balor versus Samoa Joe, potentially as part of this kind of feud, and maybe going against the stable, especially with him appearing at the live event against Triple H. Returning to the company at the live event against Triple H, Kevin Owens, and Samoa Joe. It still makes sense for them to do something with that. They may even still be teasing Joe and Zayn there, as that might be a post-WrestleMania kind of feud that they might follow, or they might even do Joe versus Zayn as maybe one of the kickoff matches for WrestleMania. The kickoff show obviously hasn't completely been set in stone, so As rumoured on the original leaked card and on the current card, we had John Cena and Nikki Bella versus The Miz and Maurice. This has actually been confirmed. Now we know that this is definitely happening. This was a feud that nobody was quite interested in. Everyone was already kind of hyped up for it to either be AJ versus Undertaker or Cena versus Undertaker. But thanks to how good Miz and Cena are on the mic, we are now completely buzzing for this. It's really good actually, because nobody was particularly interested. It was what it was. It wasn't really anything that we were. It wasn't a gimmick match, but it wasn't. It was a total Divas or total Bellas match that was just kind of. It felt just like an advert at first, but thanks to this whole shoot thing that Cena and Miz are doing, we're now actually more into this on a personal level, which makes this scene really quite interesting now. We've also got a little bit of the shoot between Maurice and Nikki Bella on SmackDown Live, where they talked about the contract that was apparently taken away from Maurice and a few other wrestlers, former women's wrestlers, by the Bellas. So it's become more of, it's still a reality kind of match, but it's a reality kind of match that everybody can get into rather than just it being some total divas bitch fight thing. Also, as we know, Cena and Nikki Bella are both off for a while. Cena is off doing movies. He's doing Daddy's Home 2 and The Pact. And Nikki, so he's going more down a Dwayne Johnson, The Rock kind of role, and Nikki Bella is takes some time off, potentially even retiring after WrestleMania due to having issues with her neck. As we know, she's had neck surgery and she's had issues with it. She's even paralysed down one side of her body at one point. You know, she's constantly having issues with it, so she may end up retiring after WrestleMania. So, as for who's going to walk away with the win, don't know, but it should be a pretty good match. It should be a pretty solid match. So on the leaked card, we had Charlotte versus Sasha versus Bayley versus Nia Jax for the Raw Women's Championship. What they're going to do with this, we don't know. It's definitely, as we know, going to be Charlotte versus Sasha versus Bayley, as it was originally Charlotte versus Bayley kind of rematch. And even though Charlotte lost at Fastlane in her rematch, which it was still wrong for Bayley to win it on a Raw. It should have been saved for WrestleMania. You know, the ultimate fan getting her WrestleMania moment. She will still probably walk out of it with the WrestleMania moment, but it won't be as big. Kind of like the hot potato with the title. It wasn't devaluing the championship, as has been mentioned. It was more devaluing the moment. Every time it came up to a pay-per-view, we were like, oh, Charlotte's going to win it. And every time it came up to a Raw, it was like, oh, Sasha's going to win it. It wasn't as big as, yes, Sasha finally won that championship. It didn't really matter as much anymore. So, and you could pretty much predict what was going to happen. So it wasn't as interesting anymore. So it kind of ended that at Hell in a Cell with Sasha going over and then Sasha turning heel, and then Bayley versus Sasha, and then Bayley or Bayley versus Charlotte, and then them having a triple threat with Sasha as a heel, Charlotte as the undefeated one, and Bayley as the underdog in this whole scenario. It would have worked better storyline wise, but now we've got Sasha potentially teasing turning heel. Probably will do it either before WrestleMania or at WrestleMania. Charlotte's just brilliant, but she doesn't really have much character development at the moment, so she's probably just going to stay as she is, and Bayley will be the underdog champion coming through and probably, walking out. But they seem to add more, like they were doing with the SmackDown Live one. Now, they have been messaging women from the past, like Kelly and others, and Lita, and Lita left the company, but they have talked to previous women's wrestlers anyway about potential returns to WrestleMania 33 for some sort of segments. Now, that could just be them talking. That could just be a little backstage thing, like what they did when they brought all the tag teams together at Survivor Series, when they kind of reunited the Shield and the Club. And so they might do that. They might, they might have them maybe included in one of those matches, potentially, the SmackDown one or the Raw one. The women are potentially adding more women from the Raw roster onto this one. Now, it could just stay as that. It's obviously, like I said, on the previous one, it's been noted as a fatal 4-way, so that would be explain why they made Nia look strong on Raw recently. There's also talked of Dana potentially being added, with Dana having just turned face in a way. It's not been a full face turn, but finally turning on Charlotte after all the times that Charlotte's kind of belittled her and put her down, and she finally completely laid into her. And yeah, so they might do something with that as well. So it may end up becoming a fatal 5-way. They may end up making it some sort of battle royale. We don't entirely know what they're going to do with it. So we'll just have to see how that goes down the road, and maybe they'll change something, maybe they'll add it, maybe it'll end up being the fatal 4-way, maybe they'll make it the battle royale. We'll have to see. So originally scheduled was Kevin Owens versus Chris Jericho for the Universal Championship. Now, as we know, Kevin Owens versus Chris Jericho is still scheduled to happen, will happen, and is one of the best pieces of storytelling on the reviewee for a long time. This is beautiful. There was a little shoot segment. The Festival of Friendship kind of sealed it all. It's all been started since the build-up for WrestleMania that people haven't kind of noticed. A lot of WWE stuff is long-term booking now. So we've had, like I say, with Lesnar having this 2 out of 3 with Undertaker, and then him looking as strong as he does, the way he kind of destroyed Cena, the way he's destroyed Taker, the way he'll probably end up destroying Goldberg, especially him also going against the older wrestlers to do that and kind of cement himself as the new one to beat, the new monster, shall we say. Ignoring Strowman, don't mean it in those kind of terms, but as the one who looks almost undefeatable, as the titan, shall we say, of the show. It's long-term booking for eventually the biggest face in the company, or who they're trying to make the biggest face in the company, Roman Reigns, topple the giant, which could be quite an interesting payoff. It's just, we tend to get Reigns kind of shoved down our throats. You will love him or else. And that's what makes it so annoying. It also makes the booking really, really predictable for... there's a bit on Up, Down, Down where Rusev goes by the nickname Roman Reigns for his FIFA games, because Roman Reigns can't be beaten. And so it's an inside joke. Even Reigns jokes about it on the channel as well. So, we all kind of... It's become a bit of a joke. The booze getting turned down on the production, things like that. But, yeah, it looks like... so the long-term booking with Jericho and Owens was that all started. So some of that started also from the Triple H interfering in the match for the Universal Championship featuring Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens, and Seth Rollins getting pedigreed by Triple H to give Owens the win. Then Jericho becoming friends with, or best friends with, Owens. Owens keeps saying that he was never friends with Jericho, and he wasn't. If you look back at first, he's really, really, really uncomfortable being friends with Jericho, and it isn't until he realizes that Jericho can help him maintain that championship that he starts to do the whole best friends thing back with him. And then we get the Kevin and Chris thing, and then we got the Festival of Friendship. Then we also got the Rollins match out of that. So Rollins ended up obviously kind of being in the feud, obviously getting angry with Triple H for costing him the Universal title, but it all went back to when he got injured then. And we're looking at a lot of things as short-term booking, whereas WWE are actually more looking at it in the long run. It's long been said that WWE look at it as though they want us to forget the short-term stuff, but they don't. As the lead-up to WrestleMania 33 has proven, Owens and Jericho has ended up culminating in the Festival of Friendship. The Festival of Friendship was kind of the end of all this. So obviously they continued to build up tension by calling it Kevin and Chris and Kevin, and they're showing the separation between the two. And then we got the little segment between Triple H and Owens backstage, and Triple H ended up we don't know what he said. But then Owens ended up going to the Festival of Friendship. We had a little shoot moment from Jericho where he said it has been one of the best years of his career. Now he wasn't really meant to be around for a full year, and he kept choosing to extend his contract. So it's been really cool to see him around for this long. So now it's ended up being. So then they ended up having they got to the culmination of it where he gives him the list, and the moment that broke everybody's hearts and the ultimate feels was him lifting it up and saying, "Why is my name on this?" He delivers it perfectly. The story was done beautifully, and then Owens ends up completely destroying Jericho. Obviously, only for him to come back and cost him the Universal title at Fastlane. Now, yes, he lost in 27 seconds. Yes, the internet was peed off about this, but you've got no reason to be, because he didn't lose because he just lost. He lost because Jericho cost him the match. So he wasn't jobbed out. He wasn't buried by Goldberg, it wasn't the best way for him to lose his title, but it was probably the right way for him to lose his title if they're going to take it off him, which they obviously did, which leads us into Goldberg versus Lesnar, which I'll talk about in a moment. Jericho versus Owens. As we know, Jericho ended up winning the US Championship from Reigns, is now going to be for the US Championship. So there was talk about it being title versus title at one point, but they obviously changed their minds. So now it is just for the US Championship, which is good, because the US Championship, it tends to get forgotten about and lost in the shuffle, like you could argue quite a few of the wrestlers do. But now it gives it a sense of purpose. Granted, it's not the most important part of it. The main thing you want to see is Jericho win and kind of, before he disappears again. He may put over Owens as like a thank you for this year. He may end up potentially winning and going on a high, but with Jericho taking time off again to go with Fozzy and do some touring, he's going to be at Download and many other tours coming up. He could end up losing it to Owens so that the title can stay on the show, which will be cool to a certain extent. You know, it'll be like kind of not passing the torch, but it would be nice. It would actually be quite nice to see, and it'll also keep Owens in the championship picture. Also, going back to the long-term booking, Owens and Joe are now in this stable with Triple H, which again has been building. And Owens, when he was champion, was made to look more cowardly, which kind of mirrors what happened with Rollins. So now we're going to Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar. Nobody knows if this is going to be the main event or if it's going to be Taker versus Reigns. Goldberg is obviously going in now as the Universal Champion. Not originally. On the original card, it was stated that the stipulation for this match would be that the loser retires. Now, that says something huge. Now, as we know, talking about the long-term booking and making Lesnar look undefeatable, and obviously with the way that he's been kind of squashed in these last two matches at Survivor Series, at the Rumble. Well, not at the Rumble. The Rumble he was more kind of tossed out, but just yeah, and obviously with Goldberg made to look huge as well with the win over Lesnar and then the win over Owens. It's looking like Goldberg will more than likely retire. The match has been scheduled to go on for a few minutes rather than a few seconds, which is good, but for a main event you could argue isn't necessarily right. I mean, it's kind of the end of the night and it's pretty much finished, so a few minutes is a few minutes. We kind of got that with Lesnar versus Reigns when Rollins ended up cashing in his money in the bank for the title. Again, it was a last minute decision, but it's it will make Lesnar the top dog in the company by giving him the title. There are arguments about the part-timers thing. Don't forget where this is headed. So Lesnar having the title is not necessarily a bad thing, just so long as they actually bother to keep making him somewhat defend it rather than the title basically disappearing off TV altogether. Who he would lose it to, I don't know. I would imagine there'd be some sort of cheat involved for Lesnar to lose the title eventually. But as of right now, Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar. Goldberg looks like he is heading for retirement officially this time. Lesnar obviously being built up to be the Beast, even more so of the Beast, the monster of the company. More than likely, Lesnar will walk out of this with the title, and Goldberg will retire. But obviously, it's no longer a stipulation anymore. But we'll see. So the next one that they had in the previous card was Undertaker versus AJ Styles. This is now changed. This has now been officially declared. Probably not necessarily in the best way, but it will be AJ Styles versus Shane McMahon. It could be a great match. It could be a stop-starty match. The Undertaker versus Shane match wasn't the greatest, but when he did the jump off the top of the cage, that was really, really cool. He did feel a bit odd when he was inserted into the Survivor Series match. It made sense, but his fighting style kind of broke it up a little bit. He took the bump well, because even though it completely knocked the wind out of him, the flying spear was still a sick move, and Shane can still take bumps like the best of them. Look at his head being shoved through the car window on SmackDown Live lately. You know, the guy knows how to take the moves, so, you know, he can survive anything. He's like the Man of Steel. Look at the fall he did from the scaffolding, the twice through the glass that wasn't actually meant to break, well, it was supposed to break but didn't. So he just threw him through twice because Shane went, yeah, do it. Shane's a crazy, crazy, crazy man. And crazy ass mother. So he's going to do a big spot at Mania, obviously. So it's going to have something cool, and AJ can make anybody look good. He can make anyone look good. If you could be the worst wrestler in the world, you could be a newbie, and AJ will make you look like you've been wrestling forever. Even his matches with James Ellsworth were pretty good. Didn't make James look like the greatest, but he sold his moves pretty well. So this should be a good match. It wasn't originally, again, it was like the Cena, Nikki, Miz and Maurice match, the mixed tag match. We weren't interested in it, but they built the story up quite well, so they've had to kind of throw it together last minute and do it quickly. And because of this whole firing thing now, and AJ becoming the darker heel that even the other heels go whoa at, it makes for a much more interesting storyline, and it should make for a somewhat bit more emotionally invested match. But it should be quite a good match though. Okay, so the other potential main event, which should be a main event, let's face it, the Universal Championship and the WWE Championship should be at the top of the card. They're basically seen as the peak of WWE. To get to those titles is to be at the top of the company, so it makes sense for those two to be the main events rather than just having, hey, we're the old school wrestlers, we're the big names, we're for what you're coming to see. So you should be paying for us to be your main event. No, that's not necessarily the way that it works. But the other one that's rumoured, it was Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton versus Luke Harper for the WWE Championship. Now, that is probably not going to happen. As we know, definitely confirmed is Wyatt versus Orton. So that in itself has been built amazingly well. It wasn't necessarily thrown together last minute, but it was kind of like it was decided at the Rumble. So it's only been a few months in the making rather than a year or so. It's not really their biggest story, but it's one of their bigger stories. And Orton and Bray have done this superb. The breakdown of the Wyatt family, the inclusion of Orton, the mind games with Orton in what seemed like just some little feud between the two that culminated in an actual full storyline with Orton kind of infiltrating the Wyatts, becoming close to Bray, them kind of playing that out with the Sister Abigail into the RKO, which was kind of introduced on SmackDown Live, and then on the Survivor Series, and using Survivor Series pay-per-view with Orton and Wyatt and Bray walking away with that, and then winning the both winning the Survivor Series match for Team SmackDown, them winning the tag championships, them kind of dominating, then the fallout of the breakdown of the Wyatt family, and then the eventual betrayal, shall we say, that we had Orton giving up his spot at Mania, then his final betrayal of Bray by burning down the compound and obviously turning around and saying, I want my championship shot, and completely getting in the head of Bray, and then Bray turning on Orton on the latest one and saying making himself look even more of a horror type character than he was, with him baptizing himself in the ashes of Sister Abigail and all of that, and it's made for really, really interesting viewing, and it's been a proper like kind of attitude-esque storyline with some really, really dark, twisted moments. And as we know, Bray defeated The Undertaker at a Mania. I believe it was Wrestlemania 31. And Bray came out as the new face of fear, so he'll be able to use that mantle going into WrestleMania. And it's been great to see him finally have the championship put on him, as was deserved at Elimination Chamber. So this story hasn't been planned for long, but it has been done incredibly well and has really kept you entertained. Even if you just watch that storyline on its own, it makes for a great TV show all on itself. Obviously, being within the world of WWE as well just adds that little bit more to it. So this match is going to be fantastic. There should be some great character spots in there. So yeah, that should be a really good match. Luke Harper has been shown to look really, really strong lately. Also with the match with AJ Styles, I would imagine with the return of Eric Rowan and Luke Harper, we'll see the reformation of the Wyatt family, maybe at the WrestleMania, probably at SmackDown after that. More than likely injecting Luke Harper and Eric Rowan into the Battle Royale on the pre-show. If it's on the pre-show. More than likely will be, though. Tends to be the tradition now. One I didn't really cover that much, I noticed, was Neville versus Austin Aries. Love Austin Aries. Love Neville. Neville never lets you down. His wrestling style is amazing. He is the ultimate cruiserweight. His matches have been nothing but quality, even on Raw, even on these little like tag team matches that they kind of stuck him in when they didn't know what to do with him. They were still high flying and action packed. Just by having Neville in there, it made you want to watch it. Neville has come a long way, and it's good to see a British boy doing really well on the card. So yeah, it's been right for him to have that championship. It needed to go to him. It needed 205 Live and the Cruiserweight division really needed some kind of life injecting into it. So to do that was a big thing. And now that we've got Austin Aries, who is, again, you could argue one of the greatest cruiserweights, not necessarily of all time, but definitely one of them. He was amazing. His Ring of Honor days. He's also been in TNA. His work in TNA was fantastic. His matches with Hardy and Anderson, and his tag team with Bobby Roode, with the Dirty Heels, was really good. Austin Aries, again, never fails to deliver. It's always breathtaking matches, high-flying action. So Neville versus Austin Aries will just be flippy shit all day. It's going to be amazing, and yeah, really looking forward to that match as well. Going back to the Orton and Bray thing, if Orton and Bray end up doing the champion, end up being the main event, that would also make sense going back to the Royal Rumble, the fact that Orton won the Royal Rumble. So not only was he representing his brand, but Orton, the whole point in winning the Rumble is to go forth as a competitor in the main event of WrestleMania. It's your spot as the main event of WrestleMania. Everybody who's won it tends to be in the main event of WrestleMania. Main event tends to go on last. So it's possible that may end up being the main event instead, and the other two may just be not gimmick matches, but featured, main feature matches on the card. So then there's another segment that may or may not happen. Last year, New Day ended up doing a little segment with it wasn't a little segment. It was a very cool segment with Mick Foley, Stone Cold, and HBK, where they each did their finisher. Each one got a stunner as well off Austin. It was awesome to see Austin do that. We haven't seen Austin do something in quite some time. Obviously, with him having the issues that he does and the fact that he's basically retired, it was really nice to see him do some in-ring stuff. So the last time we saw him was as a referee. Was a special referee for a match. So that was really cool last year. Now, if the Hardys do manage to get on the main card and they do finally manage to get the WWE thing settled after this whole lawsuit with TNA over the broken gimmick, and obviously after the Ring of Honor deal is over, then we might actually get to see a little segment between the New Day and the Hardys, which would be really, really cool. I doubt it's going to happen because of this whole TNA thing, or if it does happen, they might not be able to use the broken gimmick, which is unfortunate considering the gimmick was actually created by Matt Hardy. Vanguard 1 and Senor Benjamin, yes, okay, those were ideas by Jeremy Borash, but TNA gave complete creative control to the Hardys over their characters and allowed them to do the whole broken gimmick. So arguably the lawsuit may just get thrown out, and if that's the case, then the Hardys can walk away with the gimmick, and obviously we know that they are fighting this lawsuit, and he's still kind of using the gimmick through social media, through Twitter. So we can only hope that that's going to happen. It's not guaranteed, but it will be pretty cool to see those two kind of have a moment. We've already seen the New Day not rip it off as such, but kind of do their own version of the final deletion against the Wyatts at the Wyatt compound. So we'll have to see where they go with that, but that one should be really, really funny if it goes through. So I'll do a predictions video closer to the time. I hope that you guys have liked this one. So please like, share, subscribe. If you want to have a discussion with me about anything that I've said, put it in the comments below. My name is Cara, and I will see you down the road.